Captain Sarah Chen adjusted the medical scanner over the wounded Zeltharian child, her hands steady despite the chaos erupting outside the makeshift hospital. The little alien's 3 hearts were barely beating, its crystalline skin flickering between colors that she had learned meant pain and fear. "Hold still, little one," she whispered, switching to the universal translator. "We're going to fix you up." The Zeltharian colony of Theta Prime had been a peaceful trading outpost until the Vorth Empire arrived 3 days ago. The insectoid Vorth were known throughout the galaxy as merciless conquerors, but they had made a critical error in judgment. They assumed that because humans were part of the Galactic Medical Corps, they were soft. Dr. James Rodriguez burst through the tent flaps, his face grim. "Sarah, we've got incoming wounded from the Eastern District. The Vorth are using sonic disruptors on civilian shelters." Sarah's jaw tightened, but her touch remained gentle as she completed the child's treatment. Around the hospital, 23 human medical officers worked tirelessly. They had arrived on Theta Prime as part of a routine humanitarian mission, equipped only with medical supplies and basic defensive weapons. "Status report," she said, helping the young Zeltharian sit up. The child's parents had been killed in the initial bombardment, like so many others. 47 confirmed dead, over 200 wounded. The Vorth commander sent another ultimatum: complete surrender, or they level the remaining residential sectors. James pulled up a holographic display showing the colony layout. Red markers indicated destroyed areas, yellow showed current fighting, and blue marked civilian shelters. The tent flaps opened again, and Commander Vexen of the Zeltharian Defense Force limped inside. His ceremonial armor was cracked, and his usually proud bearing was broken. "Captain Chen, I must ask the impossible of you and your people." Sarah stood, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. "What do you need, Commander?" "The Vorth have broken every treaty, every law of war. They're not just conquering us, they're torturing us for sport. My forces are scattered, our weapons are no match for their technology." Vexen's voice cracked. "I'm requesting that your medical team evacuate immediately. Take as many civilians as you can fit in your transport." "And leave the rest?" Sarah asked quietly. "Better some survive than none at all. The Vorth will be here within hours." The human medical team had gathered around them, listening. Sarah looked at each face: doctors, nurses, and medics who had sworn an oath to do no harm. They were scientists and healers, not soldiers. "Commander Vexen," Sarah said, her voice carrying a strange new tone. "How many Vorth troops are in the main assault force?" "Approximately 800. They have heavy armor and air support." "Captain, please understand." "I understand perfectly." Sarah turned to her team. "Dr. Rodriguez, begin immediate evacuation of the wounded to the transport. Dr. Patel, inventory our medical supplies. Dr. Kim, I need you to access the colony's communication array." "Sarah, what are you thinking?" James asked, recognizing the look in her eyes. He had seen it once before. During the Martian plague outbreak, when pharmaceutical companies tried to prevent them from distributing free treatments. "I'm thinking about the Hippocratic Oath," she said calmly. "First, do no harm. But what do you do when harm is already being done, and the only way to stop greater harm is to act?" Commander Vexen tilted his head, confusion evident in his posture. "I don't understand, Captain." Dr. Kim returned from the communication array, his face pale. "Sarah, I intercepted Vorth communications. They're not planning to occupy the colony. They're planning to harvest the population. The Zeltharians will be sold as slaves to the mining cartels." The silence in the tent was broken only by the distant sound of weapons fire. Sarah picked up the wounded child, who had been watching with large, fearful eyes. "Commander Vexen, I need you to understand something about humans. We have a saying, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing." She handed the child to a Zeltharian nurse. "We also have another saying, if you want peace, prepare for war." "But your medical personnel," Vexon protested. You have no combat training, no weapons of significance. Dr. Rodriguez let out a bitter laugh. Commander, has anyone ever told you about human history? Some. You're known as healers and explorers. Your species joined the Galactic Council through your medical and scientific contributions. That's true, Sarah said, moving to her personal equipment locker. But before we were doctors, before we were explorers, we were something else entirely. She pulled out a small device that looked like a standard medical scanner. What is that? Vexen asked. This is a molecular analyzer. We use it to identify pathogens and toxic substances. Sarah's smile was cold. But it can also be recalibrated to identify the exact molecular composition of any material, including armor composites, weapon systems, and atmospheric processors. Dr. Patel had opened his own equipment case and was pulling out what looked like surgical instruments. Commander, human medicine advanced as quickly as it did because we spent thousands of years finding new and efficient ways to kill each other. We learned to heal because we were so good at causing harm. The Zeltharian commander's crystalline skin shifted to a deep blue, the color of confusion mixed with growing hope. Dr. Kim was working at a portable terminal. The Vorth use a centralized command structure for their armor systems. If we could introduce a specific harmonic frequency into their communication network, it would cause a cascade failure in their equipment. And their atmospheric filters, Dr. Rodriguez added, examining a vial of clear liquid. The Vorth require a specific oxygen-nitrogen mixture. If we could introduce an aerosol compound into their air supply, it would be completely harmless to Zeltharians and humans, Sarah finished, but it would render the Vorth unconscious within minutes. Commander Vexen stared at them. You're talking about chemical warfare. No, Sarah said firmly. We're talking about a sedative. The Vorth will wake up with headaches and no memory of the last few hours. No permanent damage, no casualties. But their invasion will be over. Dr. Patel held up a surgical laser. And these medical instruments? They can be recalibrated to disrupt electronic systems at a range of about 50 meters, perfectly safe for organic tissue, but devastating to complex electronics. The sounds of battle were growing closer. Through the tent walls, they could see the glow of burning buildings. The only problem, Dr. Kim said, is delivery. We would need to get within a few hundred meters of the Vorth main force to deploy the aerosol, and someone would need to physically interface with their command systems to upload the harmonic virus. That's suicide, Vexen said flatly. Sarah checked her equipment one more time. Commander, how many civilians are left in the colony? Nearly 3,000. And how many Vorth troops? 800, as I said. Those are acceptable odds. Captain Chen, I cannot ask you to... You're not asking. We're volunteering. Sarah looked around at her team. Anyone who wants to evacuate with the wounded should do so now. No judgment, no questions asked. Not one of the 23 humans moved. Dr. Rodriguez cracked his knuckles. You know, I've been practicing medicine for 15 years, and I've never had the chance to perform surgery on a battlesuit's operating system. Should be interesting. Dr. Patel was already modifying his instruments. I wonder if Vorth armor has the same vulnerabilities as the Krishan models we studied in medical school. There's only one way to find out, Dr. Kim said, finishing his preparations. But first, we need to evacuate the remaining civilians to the underground shelters. Commander Vexen's skin had shifted to bright gold, amazement and disbelief. I have fought in 17 campaigns across 12 systems. I have seen warriors from every known species, but I have never seen anything like this. Like what? Sarah asked, checking the charge on her modified medical scanner. Healers who think like generals. Scientists who plan like soldiers. Vexen's voice carried a note of wonder. The galaxy believes humans are peaceful because you seek to cure disease and explore the unknown. But you're not peaceful, are you? Sarah considered the question seriously. We're not peaceful, Commander. We're something much more dangerous than that. We're compassionate. When someone threatens those under our protection, we don't just fight to win. We fight to ensure it never happens again. The ground shook as a Vorth assault craft passed overhead, heading toward the civilian shelters. That's our cue, Dr. Rodriguez said. Time to show the Vorth what human medicine really looks like. As the human medical team began to move out, Commander Vexen sent a message to the few remaining Zeltharian Defense Force units. All units, this is Commander Vexen. Prepare for immediate civilian evacuation to underground shelters. Human medical personnel are about to demonstrate why their species wasn't invited to join the Galactic Council for their military prowess. They didn't need an invitation. The first phase of what would later be known as the Theta Prime intervention was about to begin. Across the galaxy, other species would soon learn that there was a vast difference between being peaceful and being harmless. Humans had mastered that difference millennia ago. In the distance, Sarah could see the Vorth main force advancing toward the colony center. 800 of the galaxy's most feared warriors, armed with technology that could level mountains and protected by armor that had never been penetrated. They had no idea they were about to be treated by the most dangerous medical team in known space. The underground tunnels beneath Theta Prime had been carved by Zeltharian miners generations ago. Now they served as the perfect approach route for 23 humans who had spent the last hour transforming themselves from healers into something the galaxy had never seen before. Dr. Sarah Chen moved through the narrow passages with fluid precision, her modified medical equipment secured to her vest. Behind her, the rest of the human medical team followed in complete silence. They had spent 30 minutes evacuating the remaining civilians and 45 minutes preparing what Dr. Rodriguez had cheerfully called aggressive treatment protocols. "Position report," Sarah whispered into her communicator. "Team Alpha in position beneath the Vorth command post," came Dr. Kim's voice. "I can see their main communication array through the ventilation grate. The molecular scanner confirms standard galactic military architecture. I can interface with their systems." "Team Beta ready at the atmospheric processor," Dr. Patel reported. "The aerosol delivery system is prepared. The compound will disperse through their environmental suits within 90 seconds of introduction." "Team Gamma has eyes on the main assault force," Dr. Rodriguez added. 800 Vorth troops, just like Commander Vexen said. They're arranged in standard combat formation, advancing toward the colony center. They have no idea we're here. Sarah checked her own equipment one final time. The surgical laser now hummed with enough power to disrupt electronic systems in a 50-meter radius. The molecular analyzer had been reconfigured to identify weak points in Vorth armor and weapons. Her medical kit had been transformed into something that would have impressed the galaxy's most innovative military engineers. "Remember," she said quietly, "we are still medical personnel. Our goal is to neutralize the threat with 0 casualties on either side. The Vorth soldiers are victims of their own command structure as much as anyone else." Through her earpiece, she heard Commander Vexen's voice. "Captain Chen, Vorth advance forces have reached the colony perimeter. You have perhaps 10 minutes before they discover the civilian evacuation routes." "Understood, Commander. Beginning treatment now." Sarah had divided her team based on their medical specializations, but with a twist that would have shocked their instructors back on Earth. Dr. Kim, a neurological specialist, was handling the electronic warfare aspects. Dr. Patel, an anesthesiologist, was managing the chemical intervention. Dr. Rodriguez, a trauma surgeon, was coordinating the physical disruption of Vorth equipment. "Team Alpha, begin neural network disruption," Sarah ordered. 3 levels below the Vorth command post, Dr. Kim connected his modified diagnostic equipment to the alien communication array. His fingers moved across the interface with the same precision he used when performing brain surgery. Interesting, he murmured. The Vorth use a hierarchical command structure similar to a nervous system. If I introduce a specific harmonic frequency at the primary node, the harmonic virus he uploaded was based on human understanding of neural pathways adapted for electronic systems. Within seconds, it began spreading through the Vorth network like a carefully targeted seizure. Above ground, Vorth squad leaders began receiving contradictory orders. Their helmet displays flickered. Weapon targeting systems started providing incorrect data. The perfectly coordinated assault force began to stumble as their technological advantages turned into liabilities. Team Beta, initiate atmospheric treatment, Sarah commanded. Dr. Patel's expertise in anesthesiology had led him to create something elegant and terrifying. The compound he introduced into the Vorth atmospheric processors was completely harmless to any oxygen-breathing species, but it interfaced specifically with the unique respiratory filters that allowed the insectoid Vorth to survive in standard atmospheric conditions. Compound dispersing now, Dr. Patel reported. The Vorth should begin experiencing disorientation within 60 seconds, unconsciousness within 3 minutes. No permanent effects, but they'll wake up with significant memory gaps. Team Gamma, begin surgical strikes. Dr. Rodriguez and his team emerged from hidden positions throughout the colony, their modified medical instruments targeting the electronic components of Vorth weapons and armor. The surgical lasers, designed to make precise incisions in organic tissue, proved remarkably effective at creating precise failures in electronic systems. Sarah watched through her scope as the Vorth assault force began to experience what could only be described as comprehensive system failure. Soldiers stumbled as their powered armor lost coordination. Weapons refused to fire. Communication systems filled with static and false commands. "Captain Chen," came Commander Vexen's amazed voice. "What are your people doing? The Vorth are acting like they're intoxicated." "Treating them for acute aggression syndrome," Sarah replied calmly, disabling another Vorth soldier's weapons system from 200 meters away. "It's a temporary but effective therapy." The Vorth command post had erupted in confusion. The invasion force that had conquered 17 worlds in the past year was experiencing something none of them had ever encountered. Complete technological failure combined with chemical sedation, all administered by beings they had dismissed as harmless healers. General Throck, commander of the Vorth forces, tried desperately to understand what was happening to his troops. His own systems were beginning to malfunction, displaying impossible readings and contradictory data. "Report!" he demanded into his communicator. "General, we're experiencing widespread system failures," came the confused response from one of his lieutenants. "Weapons are offline, armor mobility is compromised, and half the troops are reporting severe disorientation. What kind of weapons are the defenders using?" That's the problem, sir. We can't detect any weapons fire. No energy signatures, no projectile traces, no chemical explosions. It's as if our equipment is just breaking." Through her surveillance equipment, Sarah observed the Vorth general's growing panic. She felt no satisfaction, only the calm focus of a doctor treating a dangerous patient. "Dr. Kim, how's the nervous system of their command structure?" "Completely disrupted. They're receiving orders to retreat, advance, hold position, and surrender simultaneously. The harmonic virus has created a feedback loop in their decision-making protocols." "Dr. Patel, atmospheric treatment status?" 60% of Vorth forces are now unconscious or severely impaired. The remainder will succumb within the next 2 minutes. "Dr. Rodriguez, surgical outcomes?" "All hostile weapons and armor systems have been successfully treated for acute electronic dysfunction. Not a single patient was harmed in the process." Sarah moved through the colony streets, observing the results of the most unusual military operation in galactic history. Vorth soldiers lay peacefully unconscious throughout the area, their weapons disabled, their armor powered down. Their invasion effectively ended without a single casualty on either side. But the most remarkable thing was happening in orbit. "Captain Chen," Commander Vexen's voice carried a note of awe. "I'm receiving communications from the Vorth fleet in orbit. They're requesting immediate medical assistance for their ground forces." Sarah paused. "Medical assistance?" "They believe their troops have been exposed to some kind of unknown pathogen. They're asking if the human medical team can provide treatment." Dr. Rodriguez's laughter echoed through the communication system. "Well, that's a first. The people we just defeated are asking us to cure them." "And we will," Sarah said firmly. "Prepare standard awakening protocols for chemically sedated patients. Begin repairs on their electronic systems using standard diagnostic procedures. We'll have them conscious and functional within the hour." "Captain," Commander Vexen said slowly, "why would you help them after what they did?" "Because we're doctors first, soldiers second. The Vorth troops were following orders. Our job is to make sure they understand there are consequences for targeting civilians, but those consequences don't have to include harm." An hour later, General Thrak found himself sitting in the human medical tent, feeling remarkably well considering that his entire invasion force had been neutralized without understanding how. "I don't comprehend what occurred," he said to Captain Chen. "My troops report that they simply fell asleep. Our equipment stopped functioning. When we awakened, your people were treating us for what you called exposure symptoms." Sarah handed him a cup of tea, real earth tea, which she had learned was safe for Vorth physiology. "General, let me explain something about human military doctrine. We don't fight to destroy our enemies. We fight to cure the disease of aggression." "I have conquered 17 worlds," Thrak said, confusion evident in his compound eyes. "I have faced the armies of a dozen species. I have never encountered anything like this." "That's because you've been fighting warriors, General. Today, you encountered something much more dangerous. Healers who refuse to let harm continue on their watch." Dr. Rodriguez joined them, carrying a tablet displaying the current status of all Vorth personnel. "All your troops are healthy and ready for duty, General. Their equipment has been repaired and restored to full functionality. However, we've made some modifications." "Modifications?" "Your weapons now have built-in safety protocols that prevent them from targeting unarmed civilians. Your armor includes enhanced medical monitoring systems. Your communication array has been upgraded with translation software that includes the complete text of the Galactic Convention on Treatment of Non-Combatants." General Thrak stared at the humans. "You defeated my entire force, and then you improved our equipment?" "We cured it," Sarah corrected. "Your technology had been infected with the capacity for unnecessary cruelty. We provided treatment." "But why? Why not simply destroy us?" Dr. Kim looked up from his tablet. "Because destruction doesn't cure the underlying problem, General. Tomorrow the Vorth Empire would just send another fleet with another general. But if we can cure the disease of aggression at its source—" "You're trying to heal the Vorth Empire itself," Thrak said, understanding beginning to dawn. "Every empire, every species, every individual," Sarah confirmed. "Violence is a symptom, General. We treat symptoms to cure the disease." That evening, as the Vorth fleet prepared to leave orbit, General Thrak sent a message to the Vorth High Command that would change the course of galactic history. Mission status: failed successfully. Human medical personnel have demonstrated capabilities that exceed all previous estimates. Recommendation: immediate cessation of hostile activities toward human-protected territories. Further recommendation: formal medical consultation requested for review of Vorth military protocols. Note: humans are not the soft healers we believe them to be. They are healers who have weaponized compassion itself. Commander Vexen stood with Captain Chen, watching the Vorth ships disappear into hyperspace. "Captain, I must ask you something that has been troubling me since this began." "What's that, Commander?" If human medical personnel are capable of what I witnessed today, what are human, actual military personnel capable of? Sarah was quiet for a long moment, watching the stars. Commander, human military personnel learn their tactics from human medical personnel, not the other way around. We've been healing and fighting for so long that the two have become the same thing. I don't understand. The human soldiers you might meet someday were trained by people who first learned to save lives. They fight like doctors, precisely, efficiently, and always with the goal of curing the underlying problem rather than just treating the symptoms. Commander Vexen's skin shifted to a deep purple, the Zeltharian color for profound respect mixed with healthy fear. Captain Chen, I believe the galaxy has severely underestimated humanity. No, Commander, Sarah said, beginning to pack her medical equipment. The galaxy has seen exactly what we wanted them to see. Compassion, healing, exploration, scientific advancement. But they forgot that all of those things require tremendous strength to maintain. And now? Now they're beginning to understand that there's a difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. Humans chose peace, but when peace isn't an option, she shouldered her pack. Well, you saw what happens when you threaten people under the protection of human medical personnel. As the human medical team prepared to leave Theta Prime, word of the incident spread through galactic communication networks. The story grew with each telling. 23 human doctors had defeated 800 elite Vorth warriors without firing a shot, without causing a single casualty, and had then proceeded to heal the very forces they had defeated. In council chambers across the galaxy, military strategists began urgent reviews of human capabilities. If their medical personnel could accomplish this, what were their actual warriors capable of? The answer to that question would soon become clear, but not in the way anyone expected. 6 months after the Theta Prime incident, the galactic political landscape had shifted in ways that no one could have predicted. The galactic council chambers buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 47 species gathered for an emergency session. Ambassador Krelthas of the Andromedian Trade Federation stood before the assembly, his tentacles writhing with agitation. Esteemed colleagues, we face an unprecedented situation. The humans have confused our understanding of military capability. In the human delegation section, Ambassador Dr. Elena Vasquez sat calmly, reviewing medical reports from 17 different worlds. She had been a battlefield surgeon during the Terran colonial wars before becoming a diplomatic representative. The combination of skills was proving more relevant than anyone had anticipated. The floor recognizes the distinguished ambassador from Andromeda, announced High Counselor Zephyr, the ancient crystalline being who had presided over galactic affairs for 3 centuries. Thank you, High Counselor. Over the past 6 months, we have documented 43 incidents of what humans call humanitarian intervention. In each case, human medical, scientific, or diplomatic personnel have neutralized military threats without conventional warfare. The Vorth representative, General Thrak himself, stood slowly. Since Theta Prime, he had undergone what humans called therapy, a process that had left him questioning fundamental assumptions about conflict resolution. If I may address the Council, Thrak said, the Vorth Empire wishes to formally withdraw our territorial expansion claims in 17 sectors. Shocked murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Vorth had been expanding aggressively for 50 years. Furthermore, Thrak continued, we request formal inclusion in the Human Medical Exchange Program. Our military doctrine has been successfully treated for acute aggression syndrome. Ambassador Vasquez smiled slightly. The Terran Medical Diplomatic Corps would be happy to establish permanent wellness centers throughout Vorth space, General. High Counselor Zephyr's crystalline form flickered with confusion. Ambassador Vasquez, the Council requires clarification. Are human medical personnel now functioning as military units? Not at all, High Counselor. Human medical personnel function as human medical personnel. The confusion arises from the assumption that healing and fighting are different activities. Please explain. Elena stood, accessing her personal files. High Counselor, human medicine developed alongside human warfare over millennia. We learned to heal because we were so effective at causing harm. Over time, we realized that the most efficient way to end a conflict is to cure the underlying disease that caused it. She activated a holographic display showing the recent interventions. On Kepler Station, human engineers repaired a pirate fleet's weapons to only function in self-defense mode. On Proxima 7th, human agricultural specialists ended a civil war by eliminating the famine that caused it. On the Rigel colonies, human psychologists resolved a three-way territorial dispute through what they called group therapy. The Zeltharian delegate, Commander Vexen, now serving as a diplomat himself, added his support. High Counselor, I witnessed the Theta Prime intervention personally. The humans didn't defeat the Vorth forces, they cured them. But this suggests, High Counselor Zephyr said slowly, that human civilians possess military capabilities that exceed most professional armies. No, Elena corrected gently. It suggests that humans don't recognize a distinction between solving problems and ending conflicts. We approach both with the same methodologies. In the observation gallery, military attachés from dozens of species frantically took notes. If human doctors could neutralize elite military units, what were human soldiers actually capable of? The answer came from an unexpected source. Admiral Sarah Chen, former medical officer, now commanding the human deep space exploration fleet, entered the council chambers with a small escort. She had requested permission to address the assembly directly. High Counselor, esteemed delegates, Sarah began, I believe there has been a fundamental misunderstanding about human capabilities that needs clarification. Admiral Chen, Zephyr acknowledged, the Council recognizes your service in the Theta Prime intervention. Please proceed. Thank you. The galaxy seems surprised that human medical personnel can neutralize military threats. But this reaction is based on a false assumption about human civilization. Sarah activated her own display, showing the organizational structure of human society. Other species appear to believe that humans are naturally peaceful because our first contact protocols emphasized medical aid, scientific cooperation, and diplomatic solutions. This led to the assumption that humans avoid conflict. Is this assumption incorrect? Asked the Rigelian representative. Completely. Humans are not peaceful, Ambassador. We simply became very, very good at ending conflicts quickly and permanently. She changed the display to show human historical data. For most of human history, we were extraordinarily violent. We developed increasingly sophisticated methods of warfare until we reached a critical realization. The most effective way to win a war is to prevent your enemy from wanting to fight again. And how does this relate to your medical interventions? General Thrak asked. Because we learned that the most efficient way to prevent someone from wanting to fight is to cure whatever made them aggressive in the first place. Hunger, fear, resource scarcity, ideological extremism, these are all treatable conditions. The assembly fell silent as the implications sank in. Admiral, the Centaurian delegate said carefully, are you suggesting that human medical personnel are actually military specialists? I'm suggesting that there's no difference. A human doctor treating a patient and a human soldier engaging an enemy use identical problem-solving methodologies. Identify the threat, neutralize it with minimum necessary force, cure the underlying condition to prevent recurrence. Elena stood again. Perhaps a demonstration would clarify the situation. What kind of demonstration? Zephyr asked. Admiral Chen's exploration fleet recently encountered a genuine threat to galactic stability. Admiral, would you share the details of the Andromeda incursion? Sarah nodded grimly. 3 weeks ago, Our long-range sensors detected an extragalactic invasion fleet approaching from the Andromeda Galaxy. 2,000 heavily armed vessels carrying approximately 50 million soldiers from a species called the Harketh Dominion. Panic erupted in the council chambers. An extragalactic invasion had been every species' nightmare scenario for centuries. The Harketh had destroyed 17 civilizations in their own galaxy before deciding to expand into ours, Sarah continued calmly. Their advanced scouts indicated they intended to harvest all intelligent life for slave labor, with particular interest in human medical knowledge. Admiral, Zephyr said urgently, this threat exceeds anything in our historical records. The combined fleets of all Galactic Council species would be insufficient to repel such a force. Why wasn't the Council notified immediately? Because the threat no longer exists. The silence was absolute. Admiral Chen, the Kree delegate said slowly, are you reporting that humanity has destroyed an invasion fleet of 2,000 vessels? No. I'm reporting that humanity has treated the Harketh Dominion for acute expansionist syndrome. Elena accessed the mission files. Admiral Chen's fleet consisted of 23 exploration vessels with minimal armament. They were equipped for scientific research and medical assistance. The Harketh fleet was technologically superior in every measurable way, Sarah continued. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their armor could withstand stellar radiation. Their tactics had conquered multiple galaxies. A conventional military engagement would have been hopeless. But you engaged them anyway? Thrak asked, professional interest overcoming fear. We treated them. Dr. Rodriguez, now serving as Chief Medical Officer for the Exploration Fleet, identified that Harketh aggression was caused by a parasitic organism that had infected their entire species millennia ago. The parasite fed on adrenaline and dopamine, creating artificial aggression that served the parasite's reproductive cycle. Dr. Kim, our neurological specialist, developed a harmonic frequency treatment that could eliminate the parasites without harming the host. Dr. Patel created an aerosol delivery system that could treat an entire ship simultaneously. The council hung on every word. Within 6 hours of first contact, we had treated the command vessel. The Harketh commander, freed from parasitic influence for the first time in his life, immediately began treating his own fleet. Within 48 hours, 50 million Harketh soldiers had been cured of the condition that made them aggressive. And now, Zephyr asked. The former Harketh Dominion has established the Andromeda Healing Initiative. They're working their way back through their own galaxy, providing medical treatment to the civilizations they previously conquered. They've also requested permanent human medical personnel to help establish therapeutic protocols for other species they encounter. You cured an entire galactic empire, Commander Vexen said in amazement. We treated a medical condition that was causing harmful behavior, Elena corrected. The Harketh Empire ceased to exist, not because we destroyed it, but because we cured the disease that created it. High Counselor Zephyr's crystalline form flickered rapidly, the equivalent of deep thought. Ambassador Vasquez, Admiral Chen, this information requires the Council to fundamentally reassess humanity's role in galactic affairs. How so, High Counselor? If human medical personnel can neutralize threats of this magnitude, what capabilities do human actual military forces possess? Sarah and Elena exchanged glances. This was the question they had been expecting. High Counselor, Elena said carefully, there are no human military forces in the sense that other species understand the term. Explain. Every human who serves in what other species call military roles receives the same fundamental training. Identify threats to intelligent life, neutralize those threats with minimum necessary force, cure the underlying conditions that created the threats. Whether someone serves in our medical corps, our exploration fleet, or our defense forces, the methodology is identical. Sarah nodded. What the galaxy calls the human military is actually an extension of our medical services. We don't maintain separate military and civilian capabilities because we don't recognize a meaningful distinction between curing disease and preventing warfare. But surely human defense forces must possess weapons of significant destructive power, the Rigelian delegate pressed. Of course, Sarah acknowledged. But we learned long ago that the most powerful weapon is the ability to make your enemy not want to be your enemy anymore. Destructive weapons are medical tools for removing cancerous threats. Our most effective weapons cure the patient rather than destroying the tumor. The implications sank in slowly throughout the chamber. Are you telling us, General Thrack said quietly, that humanity has no warriors, only healers with increasingly sophisticated treatment protocols? General, humanity learned that there's no difference between a warrior and a healer if you approach both roles correctly. A warrior protects people by eliminating threats. A healer protects people by eliminating threats. The difference is in methodology, not purpose. High Counselor Zephyr spoke into the profound silence. The Council now understands why humanity was invited to join the galactic community through your medical and scientific achievements. You weren't hiding your military capabilities. Your medical capabilities are your military capabilities. Precisely, Elena confirmed. The galaxy is welcome to examine any aspect of human society. You'll find that we maintain no hidden armies, no secret weapons, no classified military technologies. Everything we do openly. We heal, we explore, we cure problems wherever we find them. It simply happens, Sarah added, that problems sometimes include aggressive civilizations, parasitic organisms that cause species-wide violence, resource conflicts that threaten billions of lives, and occasionally extragalactic invasion forces. But we treat them all the same way, identify the cause of the harmful behavior, neutralize the immediate threat, cure the underlying condition, and provide follow-up care to prevent recurrence. In the weeks that followed, the Galactic Council established the Department of Human Affairs, not as a military alliance, but as a medical consortium. Species throughout the galaxy began requesting therapeutic intervention for various problems they couldn't solve through conventional means. Pirates plaguing trade routes were treated for resource addiction disorder. Territorial disputes were resolved through environmental therapy. Aggressive artificial intelligences were debugged using protocols developed for treating cognitive disorders. The galaxy had learned a fundamental truth about humanity. They weren't peaceful beings who happened to be good at fighting. They were the universe's most effective problem solvers, who had simply realized that compassion was a more powerful force than destruction. The stars themselves seemed to breathe easier, knowing that somewhere in the dark between worlds, human medical personnel were on duty, ready to treat whatever threatened the health of civilization itself. And in the deepest reaches of space, other galaxies began receiving signals, not warnings of human military might, but invitations for medical consultation from the species that had turned healing into the ultimate form of warfare. The message was always the same. This is the Human Medical Diplomatic Corps. We understand you may be experiencing some difficulties. We're here to help.